Hey everyone, Hungry Cat here. Hopefully my video series on through-hiking the Benton MacKaye Trail piqued your interest in the trail. In this video, I'll lay out the major logistical considerations for planning a through-hike on the BMT and provide you with information to inform your own decisions and plan your own hike. In this video, I'll cover which direction to hike, northbound or southbound, getting to and from the trail, navigation, required permits and camping, resupply, water availability, and food storage. I won't be going through the gear I used in detail on this video, but if you want to see a list of everything I brought on my through-hike of the Benton MacKaye Trail, I'll leave a link in the video description to my lighter pack page which lists everything out and its associated weight. Also, be sure to check the video description for links to all of the resources I'm going to share with you today, including a trip planner that I built to help with coordinating resupply, mail drops, and daily mileage. Okay, let's get started. Northbound versus southbound. It's easy to get to both the northern and southern trail termini, but there are three main factors to consider when choosing your hiking direction. The biggest consideration is the timing of your camping reservations in the Great Smoky Mountain National Park. You have to reserve specific campsites for every night you will stay in the park on specific dates. Southbound hikes are a little bit easier because you're booking campsites for the first week or so of your trip. You only have to consider your daily mileage between sites. If you hike northbound like I did, you also have to consider when you're going to actually get to your first campsite in the Smokies, which means you need to be comfortable with your daily mileage plan. You could wait until you started your hike or get closer to the Smokies to book campsites, but then you risk the chance of the sites that you want not being available. The next consideration is hiking difficulty. In my opinion, the northern part of the trail is a little bit more difficult than the southern portion. So if a ramp up in difficulty is important to you, you might want to consider hiking northbound. The last factor is whether having a trail monument at the end of the hike is important to you. The southern terminus at Springer Mountain has a nice plaque about Benton MacKaye. At the northern terminus at Baxter Creek Trailhead, there isn't anything. There's nothing marking the trail or any sign marking the northern terminus at all. This didn't matter to me, but it might matter to you, so if it does, you probably want to plan on hiking southbound. Getting to and from the trail. The southern terminus is at Springer Mountain, which is accessed via a dirt forest road, and then a short hike on the Appalachian Trail to where the BMT starts near the summit of Springer Mountain. Most of the shuttle providers for the Appalachian Trail will also shuttle BMT hikers. Just make sure you're clear that you want to go to the Springer Mountain parking lot and not to the AT approach trail at Amicalola State Park, which is where many AT hikers will start their journey. I used White Blaze shuttle service and got a ride from the North Springs MARTA station in Atlanta, Georgia. Atlanta is your closest airport and major transit hub to the southern terminus of the Benton MacKaye Trail. The BMT northern terminus is at the Baxter Creek Trailhead inside the Great Smoky Mountain National Park. It's about 3.3 miles from exit 451 on Interstate 40, where the Appalachian Trail crosses the highway, and about another mile from Standing Bear Farm Hostel along the AT. You can arrange a shuttle with Standing Bear Farm, which is also a great place to stay before or after you finish the trail. When I finished the trail, I walked out to I-40 and then to Standing Bear Farm to get some food, and then back to I-40 to meet my wife. Navigation. The trail is blazed with white diamonds and is easy to follow most of the time, with the exception of a few confusing junctions, most notably where other trails intersect it in the Great Smoky Mountain National Park, and there really aren't any signage or blazes. I definitely recommend bringing some kind of map. I use the Guthook map app on my phone for navigation. Guthook is probably the most widely used app for navigation by thru-hikers of the Appalachian Trail, the Pacific Crest Trail, the Continental Divide Trail. I like it because it works in airplane mode and doesn't drain my battery. I always know exactly where I am on trail, and I know where I am in relation to water sources, campsites, and other waypoints. So I highly recommend using Guthook for your hike as well. If you want a paper map as a backup, you can go to the Benton MacKaye Trail Association website and purchase them there. Permits and camping. Permits are required for camping in the Great Smoky Mountain National Park. You'll have to use the park's reservation website to book specific campsites on specific dates for each night you'll stay in the park. Reservations can be made up to 30 days in advance and are first come, first served. As I mentioned earlier, if you're hiking northbound, you'll have to figure out when you'll arrive in the Smokies to make sure you reserve the right dates. So check out my trip planner via the link in the video description, as it may help you to think through this. Campsites are $5 per person per night, and the cost is capped at $20, so it's very affordable. I found the comments in Guthook about the specific campsites very useful for deciding which ones I might want to camp at. Outside of the Smokies, no other permits are required for hiking the trail, and camping is basically wherever you can find a campsite. There's one shelter in the Smokies that you can book in lieu of a campsite, and outside of that, there are no other shelters on the trail, with one exception. In Georgia, near Blue Ridge, the trail passes through one relatively long stretch of private land, where the only place you can legally camp is at a shelter called Indian Rock Shelter. I stayed there, and it's featured in episode 1 of my Benton MacKaye Trail thru-hike series. Just know that if you stay there, there's no place to go to the bathroom, so you need to be confident in your ability to not read the proverbial morning newspaper the next day until you're able to hike past the private land boundary. Resupply. Resupply is fairly straightforward, and I have suggested access points and mail drop locations in my trip planner. You can choose to go into towns at some of the access points and resupply and even stay a night, but I wanted to stay on trail as much as possible. If staying on trail, mail drops are the best way to resupply. I resupplied once on trail by purchasing supplies at Iron Bridge Cafe in Georgia, which had a limited selection of supplies but enough to get by. I then resupplied 2 more times via mail drops, one at Webb Brothers gas station and outfitter shop in Reliance, Tennessee, and the other at Fontana Lodge right before the Smokies. There are other places you can mail boxes too, so see my trip planner or Guthook for that information. I highly recommend Guthook as a resource to help inform your resupply. If you mail boxes to yourself on trail, call first to confirm that it's okay, no matter what your guide says. Confirm the mailing address again when you do call to confirm that it hasn't changed. Confirm their hours of business for when you'll be hiking through, because you don't want them to be closed when you show up to get your box. Address the box to yourself using your real name and not your trail name, care of the business you're shipping it to, and add attention, BMT hiker, ETA, and then the date that you'll likely arrive under the address. You also want to add your name and the ETA date on every side of the box in case they're looking through a lot of boxes trying to find yours. Be sure to bring a picture ID so they can match the name on the ID with the name on your box. You can see an example of how to address a box in my trip planner. Water availability. There's lots of water on the BMT, so planning around water isn't much of a concern. There were several stretches that were relatively dry compared to the rest of the trail, but I don't really remember anything longer than 8 miles or so. And even then, there may have been water sources that I just skipped over because they were a little bit too far off trail or down too steep a slope and I just didn't feel like dealing with it. A resource like Guthook is really handy for planning how much water to carry based on water availability. You'll need something to filter or treat your water. I used a Sawyer Squeeze water filter and 2 1-liter Smart Water bottles. I also had a 2-liter CNOC Vecto water pouch, which I didn't really need, but I just carry it for convenience because it's pretty light. It allows me to carry extra water into camp if I want, and it can be useful to scoop up water from shallow streams. See the link to my gear list in the video description if you want to check these items out. That brings us to food storage. There are black bears, raccoons, mice, and other critters on the BMT, so proper food storage is important. I used a combination of an OPSAC and a Z-Packs DCF food bag for storage. The OPSAC is a hermetically sealed pouch that looks like a giant Ziploc bag that prevents food odors from escaping. I put my food in this and then put it in my Z-Packs bag so I can hang it at night. The campsites I stayed at in the Smokies all had bare cable systems, so it was really easy just to clip my Z-Packs bag onto the cables and hoist them up overnight. That wraps up my thru-hike planning and logistics overview for the Benton MacKaye Trail. The Benton MacKaye Trail Association website is another great resource for you to plan your hike. I'll leave a link to their site, as well as my gear list and my trip planner, and all of the other resources I've mentioned in this video in the video description below, so be sure and check them all out. If you like this video or got any value out of it, please do hit that like button, subscribe to my channel, and share it with a friend. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.